All right, let's get into this. We're going to talk about a legal battle that all started with a simple form, but believe me, it has huge implications for whether everyday people can get justice in America. It's a story about good intentions, a really restrictive law, and a major fight over the First Amendment.
Just think about this for a second. What if the simple act of showing someone how to fill out a legal form for free, mind you, could actually get you into serious trouble? It sounds completely backwards, doesn't it?
Well, in New York, that's pretty much the reality. And one nonprofit organization decided to take that reality on, head on. And that challenge sparked the major court case we're breaking down today.
Now, to really get why this is such a big deal, you first have to understand the problem they were trying to solve. And in New York, it is a massive one. Take a look at this number, 90%. Just let that sink in for a second. It's an absolutely staggering figure, and it points to a huge breakdown in the legal system. But what does it actually represent?
It means that 9 times out of 10, when someone in New York gets sued over a debt, they lose. Not because their case is bad, but because they lose automatically, just by not responding. And here's the kicker. Many of these claims might not even be valid, but without a response, the court just never finds out.
And the consequences of losing like that, they're devastating. We're talking about your wages being taken right out of your paycheck, getting kicked out of your home, having your car repoed, or finding your bank account totally frozen. It creates this downward spiral that is just incredibly hard to break out of. Okay, so you've got this massive crisis. Well, a group called UPSOLVE came up with a pretty clever idea, a way to help people fight back, using a really simple, straightforward process. So this is UPSOLVE. They're a nonprofit, and their whole mission is to close this justice gap. Their plan was to train regular community members. We're talking about pastors, local leaders, trusted faces in the neighborhood, not lawyers, to become what they call justice advocates. And the goal was for these advocates to give free, very specific advice to help people respond to these lawsuits. And this quote from Reverend John Udo Okon, man, it just gets right to the heart of it. He sees this every single day in the South Bronx. People in his community come to him for help, but he's not a lawyer. He wanted to become a justice advocate, so he could finally give them the basic guidance they so desperately need but have no way of affording. Now, the kind of help they'd be giving is super specific. This isn't about representing someone in court or anything like that. It's a simple 5-step process. Basically, see if they can help, make sure the person understands the limits of that help, and then literally walk them through filling out New York's own official 1-page check-the-box answer form. Sounds great, right? Simple, targeted, and free. So what's the catch? Well, the catch is a very old law, a rule that was actually designed to protect people, but in this case, UPSOLVE argues it's acting as a giant barrier to justice. It's known as the Unauthorized Practice of Law Rule, or UPL for short, and it's pretty simple. In New York, like in most states, if you're not a licensed lawyer, it is illegal to give a specific person specific legal advice about their specific problem. And the penalties for breaking that rule are no joke. And here's what's so fascinating about this case. Everybody agrees. UPSOLVE, the Reverend, the New York Attorney General, they all admit that, yup, under the current law, the Justice Advocate Program is illegal. And that very agreement is what turned this whole thing into a constitutional showdown. So if everyone agrees the program breaks the law, how do you even begin to fight that? Well, UPSOLVE's argument was a big one. They claimed the law itself, when applied to them, actually violated their constitutional right to free speech. And believe it or not, in the first round, they won. The district court sided with them, saying the UPL law was what's called a content-based restriction. Basically, it was targeting the topic of speech, legal advice. In American law, that's a huge red flag. It means the law has to pass this incredibly tough test called strict scrutiny. The court looked at it and said, nope, New York's law doesn't pass. So boom, UPSOLVE got the green light. But of course, the state appealed. And this right here is where the whole case takes a sharp turn. The appeals court didn't say this wasn't about speech, but it totally changed the way everyone had to look at that speech. So the appeals court said, okay, yeah, we agree this law regulates speech, but, and this is the million-dollar but, they had a completely different take on how it regulates speech, and that single distinction changed everything. Okay, let's break this down, because it's super important. The first court saw the law as content-based. Think of it like a rule in a park that says no political speeches. It targets the topic. The appeals court, though, saw it as content neutral. They said the law doesn't care what legal advice you're giving, it only cares about who is giving it, a licensed lawyer. So that's more like a park rule that says no using megaphones. It's about the manner of the speech, not the message. This little change is huge because it means the state no longer has to pass that super hard strict scrutiny test. Now they get an easier one.
And this new, easier test is called intermediate scrutiny. Under this test, all the government really has to do is show that the law serves an important interest, like, protecting consumers from bad advice, and that it doesn't shut down way more speech than it absolutely has to. It's a much, much lower bar for the state to clear.
So, the rules of the game have completely changed. Where does that leave UPSOLVE and their justice advocates? Is the program officially dead in the water? Well, not exactly.
The appeals court did two things. The first is vacate. That just means they hit the brakes. The green light that the lower court gave UPSOLVE, it's off now. The program is back on hold. The second thing is remand. That's just a fancy legal term for sending the case back where it came from, but with new instructions. They told the lower court, you need to decide this all over again, but this time you have to use the easier intermediate scrutiny test. So, the fight's not over, but the rules have changed, and it just got a lot harder for UPSOLVE to win.
And all of this leaves us with the really tough central question of this whole fight. The UPO rule was created to protect people from getting hurt by bad advice. But what happens when that shield becomes a wall? A wall that blocks people from getting even the most basic help when they are at their most desperate. This case forces us all to ask, can a law that's meant to protect the public actually end up blocking their only path to justice?